During the months between the last video and now, Gunship IV has added the F-15C, MiG-29, IR missile AIM-9M Sidewinder, R-73, flares, and finally, its first implementation of radar. I'll show you how the Gunship IV radar works in the F-15C, as well as what improvements are needed to make this radar model as accurate as possible, as well as future plans after the implementation of radar on the MiG-29 and more features for the F-15C radar. Right now, when you select a radar-guided missile, there are 3 buttons that appear on the right side of your screen: a mode button, a multifunction button, and a lock button. The lock button is self-explanatory. It's just that it has not been implemented and will be implemented in the next radar update. The multifunction button has 3 modes: TDC, the targeting data control symbol, which is the 2 lines that you can move around on your radar using the virtual cursor. Then there's the range scale mode, which allows you to adjust the range scale of the radar. And finally, the offset mode. Currently, the offset mode has variable azimuth from the left and right edges of the radar, as well as adjustment of the elevation angle of the antenna, like in Carrier Landing HD. Now, in real life, the planes have fixed bar and azimuth scan settings, so that's a major difference between Gunship IV and real life. It's possible that this can change to more like the real thing in the future. In this clip, you can see the aircraft disappear from my radar once my elevation scan is either too high or too low. We are planning to implement single target track mode from the F-15, as well as the flood mode to guide the AIM-7 at shorter ranges for the F-15C. We will also be implementing the N019 Rubin radar for the MiG-29. There are also some known issues, like the radar being able to see ground targets despite the fact that it's an air-to-air mode. Lockdown penalties also have to be implemented. However, those need to be implemented carefully. As you all know from DCS World, people have complained in the past there that just a few hundred feet or a few thousand feet below, their detection penalty is 50% compared if they were at co-altitude or higher than the ground. So for Gunship IV, especially because that we're wanting to have a good core simulation, we definitely have to pay good attention to that. And some aircraft don't even have look-down capability at all, like the F4E with the APQ-120 radar. During an earlier Q&A from last month, it was also confirmed that some air-to-ground modes will be modeled. One mode has been definitely confirmed: synthetic aperture resolution mapping. It's also very likely that ground moving target and sea search will be implemented because ground vehicles are going to be a big part of the dynamic campaign. And for future campaigns, other than the Gulf Wars, naval forces on both sides may become more sophisticated, so sea search modes will definitely be useful, along with anti-ship missiles. And yes, don't forget about short-range ACM modes like vertical scan and gun acquisition, for which you can use after you've merged with a hostile aircraft. There are other topics to touch on, such as pulse repetition frequency, radar jamming, and ECCM modes. But to keep this video relatively short, I'll move on to the other things that Gunship IV is currently working on, so I can give you an update on what is currently coming in the near term. With the addition of radar to Gunship IV, IFF has become more of a concern than ever. We will use circles for definitely identified friendlies and rectangular shapes for bogeys or unknown contacts or hostiles. We will be fixing the A10 sometime after the radar update that we mentioned in the addition off the MiG-29's radar. After the A-10A is fixed, the Su-25K will be added. And not only that, it's going to be the last plane for this year because we want to work on refining the current aircraft. So anything from the F-16C and onwards will appear in 2024 at the earliest. I remember about the new flight model that we are planning compared to the previous gunship games. Yes, we are going to remove the old flight model completely, and we are going to use a certain Unity plugin that will allow us to have much more advanced aerodynamics than any of the previous gunship games. And the damage model is going to be way better than Gunship's sequel, World War II. Fire will now cause damage continuously until it's either extinguished or the part gets destroyed. There are also 3 damage model levels for both our graphics. So at level 1, it's just going to be if a bullet hits. Level 2 is when it has severe damage and it's almost destroyed. And level 3 is obviously when a part of the aircraft is destroyed. And wing damage will definitely lower the G tolerance of the wings. So this is definitely a thing that gets modeled in IL-2 Sturmovik Great Battles, and it will also be a thing in Gunship 4. And if your engines are damaged but not destroyed, like in other games, in other flight sims, it is possible for your engine to lose thrust. Maybe oil leaks can be implemented in the future, but we'll have to see how far we can push damage model. And once lots of aircraft are done, different campaigns are possible. As Phil said, we can definitely create the maps once we have enough aircraft. It was specifically mentioned that Operation Allied Force is possible in the future. And yes, we know that Gunship 4 has not progressed as fast as we would like, but because of limited funding, that is the result. Now, if we do have way more funding in the future, or maybe the game is generating more revenue upon public release and then it gets massively successful, it's possible things could be added much faster. Alright, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again.